A Plaguelands Media production.
Okay, so you remember from the first part that we ended with Jean Grey getting the power of the Phoenix. Also, we believe, but then, issue 9 was called Like a Phoenix, so it's pretty much a given at this point. Now we come to Sue Storm with her and Reed's, Sue Richards, I should say, because she's married to Reed Richards at this point, with their baby Franklin. And she has taken Franklin to Agatha Harkness to kind of protect. She's put Franklin in Agatha's care. Agatha Harkness, very interesting magic using character in the Marvel Universe. If you're only familiar with the MCU, you might recognize this character from the MCU TV series WandaVision. And I believe she's getting her own television show in phase 5 or phase 6. I forget what it's up to. I've completely lost track of the MCU. So we see Jean Grey now with the Phoenix power. Everyone's kind of freaking out. How is she so powerful? They try to contain it. Cyclops uses his energy blast. Reed uses his stretching ability. But to no avail, and then the Phoenix power leaves Jean Grey just like that. So I believe this is kind of John Byrne giving a little nod to, the Phoenix Force and the Phoenix ability. It was such a popular story back in the day. One of my favorite X-Men stories, right up there with Days of Future Past, which if you haven't read, you are doing yourself a disservice. Read the Dark Phoenix Saga, read Days of Future Past. If you don't want to read them, just watch the episodes of the animated series. It's all good. It's all fucking good. Even the movies, although they took a lot of liberties, and granted, Dark Phoenix was not the best X-Men film, but you know what? What I say to you haters out there of those movies, just be happy it was a fucking X-Men film. I mean, sure, you might not have liked it. It might have disappointed you. It definitely disappointed me, but I'm just happy that there's more X-Men films out there so that when I get bored on a Sunday afternoon, I can just switch on and watch a crappy X-Men film. A crappy X-Men film is better than no X-Men films at all, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me in the comments down below. That is kind of my the way I look at cinema these days. They make a movie. I'm going completely off track here, but you know what? I'm going to go with it anyway. They make a movie that I'm excited for, and I watch it, and it turns out to be a disappointment to me. Fair enough. That was on me for getting my expectations up. However, at least they tried. At least they made a movie. At least someone sat down and wrote the script. It might not be everything that you want, but at least you got something. So just be happy with what you got. You don't even have to watch it. You can say, there's a new movie. I don't think the trailer looks good. I'm not going to watch it. But no, what are half the people on the internet do? The trailer looks shit. I'm not going to fucking watch this movie. Here's my $10 for a movie ticket. Now I'm going to go online and I'm going to fucking bitch for 10 years about how much I hated the fucking movie. If you know you're not going to like it, don't watch it. If you want to give it a chance and you still don't like it, that's fine. At least you gave it a chance and you don't like it. Your opinion is valid. That's fantastic. But don't tell everyone that you're not going to watch a movie, then you go and watch the movie and then you bitch about the movie. That's fucking pathetic. Okay, let's get back to the comic. I'm going completely off tangent here, and I apologize to everyone out there for doing that. So they see that the the Xenox is getting completely out of hand. And they're trying to come up with a way to kind of stop it, to protect this planet. We see Candy talking to Professor X again about what's going on. They manage to head into the kind of Xenox ship or fortress or whatever it is, and they realize that there is a giant kind of core reactor, and at the same time they're getting attacked by these giant alien monster things. Reed wants to stretch all the way down to the bottom, but he doesn't think he can do it. Carl and Bobby are kind of talking. Carl is trying to disguise who he is, so Bobby doesn't realize he is actually the villain Sauron. So they go down to try and stop this kind of reactor thing. Ben's really the only one that might be able to survive the destruction of it. They manage to explode it and get away at the last minute, of course. Now we are brought to the town of Dunphy in, I believe, Illinois. Town of Dunphy, where we have a little girl playing with some dolls in her backyard, and suddenly a sentinel lands. Why is a sentinel here? The X-Men supposedly wiped out all of the sentinels. So how can the sentinel be here? We move into issue 10. We see the little amphibious guy who rescues Magneto, who kind of managed to escape that Zeppelin being torn apart. We have Charles Xavier with Moira McTaggart. Moira McTaggart is a very interesting character. She is a geneticist, one of the leading experts on human mutation. She was formerly Charles Xavier's lover, I believe, in the comic books. She had a son called Prometheus, who had reality warping abilities. If you're going by the Moira McTaggart in the movies, X-Men First Class, she was like a CIA operative. I believe she also appeared in X-Men Apocalypse at the very beginning. In more modern times, I believe she herself is a mutant, and her power is that she is immortal or some rubbish like that. I don't know, but this Moira McTaggart, the expert on genetics, this is the Moira McTaggart that I grew up with, that I enjoy, this incarnation of the character itself. They are testing Jean Grey after Jean and the others informed them of the power surge when they were on the space mission with the Fantastic Four. Jean tells Xavier she doesn't like lying to the team. Xavier has not told the team about Moira McTaggart's existence yet, and apparently they're just taking Jean Grey to Boston to see some doctors. Jean's not comfortable with this and basically lets Charles know. At this point, Charles is not kind of acting himself. Having not read some of those earlier comics where he faked his death with the Xenox invasion and things like that, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But Charles here seems eerily similar to the Charles Xavier that we see in the Onslaught saga. At least at the beginning of the Onslaught saga. He's, quite frankly, a bit of a dick. Now, if you're taking Charles from your knowledge of Charles Xavier from the movies, from the comic books, from the animated series, and from the 90s comic books, things like Extinction Agenda, like stories like Extinction Agenda, Fatal Attractions, stuff like that, you're going to have this kind of rose-colored view of the character of Charles Xavier. if you go through and you look at everything that Charles Xavier has done, including giant-sized X-Men #1, which you can find in the Epic Collection Second Genesis, which I have done a review of on this channel, he's a fucking cunt. Like, he is literally a prick. But we all have our time period for the characters, and for me, 90s Xavier, including Fatal Attractions and Onslaughts, the Onslaught Saga, and the X-Men animated series, that's my favorite Charles. Bar none. In this, he's just a dick. But there you go. Moira kind of confronts Jean, has a few words with her. Is everything okay? And as they head back to the mansion, this is where Jean kind of has a confrontation with him. They get back and Beast and Psyche are waiting for her. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Yeah, but Psyche lets Charles know that Cerebro has picked up a new mutant signature. Okay, what the fuck is Cerebro? Well, if you're not familiar with the movies, if you're not familiar with the animated series, if you're not familiar with the comic books, in fact, if this is the first time you're being introduced to the X-Men, I'm sorry, you really need to go and broaden your horizons. But Cerebro is a mutant detecting device that was invented by, well, in the movies it was invented by Beast. In the comic books it was invented by Charles and Magneto, I believe. And it basically allows someone with telepathic abilities to detect new mutants when their powers become like a first used, usually at puberty, but as you're going to see a little bit earlier in this case. So we then go back to the town of Dunphy. The little girl who had the Sentinel land in her backyard. The mother is kind of looking for her. You'll be late for the bus. This is a single mother trying to raise a daughter. For some reason, they're in a suburban neighborhood, but they have a barn. As I guess, you know, back in the day, a lot of people built barns on their houses for some reason. Don't really know why. So Beast and Charles decide to go and check out this new mutant signature. The reason Beast wants to go is because this is the town where he grew up in. So he's going to go back and see his family. He sees his mother. Charles kind of meets the mother and whatnot, while Psyche and Jean Grey stay back at the mansion, where they are suddenly greeted by Candy. Candy lets them know what is happening, what is going on, that Professor X kind of lowered the security system so she could kind of get through. Back in the Savage Land, Havoc, Lorna and Kaiser are still flying around looking for the other X-Men. Bobby and Carl are kind of talking. Carl doesn't want him to know that this is his villainous alter ego Sauron, as you can see there. He kind of recounts the battle that he had with the X-Men, where he kind of went into self-imposed exile but was found by his girlfriend. In order to not ever become Sauron again, he ends up throwing himself off a cliff, but he survives, wakes up in the Savage Land, gets to this island, finds this old German kind of refugee camp thing. So that's just that kind of backstory. After visiting with Hank McCoy's family, they head to the house where they found the mutant signature. Doesn't appear to be anybody home. Obviously, the little girl is at school and the mother is at work. Hank goes around the back, sees a barn. He starts getting all fucking preachy here, like, wow, this barn looks dangerous. This is no place to raise a fucking child. I'm not going to say that these are bad parents, but these are fucking bad parents. And then he's confronted with the Sentinel. Okay, Sentinels. Basically, mutant hunting robots invented by Bolivar Trask as part of an initiative to either wipe out or round up the mutant population. Watch the animated series. First 2 episodes, part 1 and part 2, Night of the Sentinels, that introduce you to the character of Jubilation Lee. We also get Storm, Rogue, Gambit, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Beast, Morph, and Wolverine and Professor X in that first 2-part episode. Just great. But if you want to know what a Sentinel is, well, that's what you go watch if you don't know what a Sentinel is. Just saying. Okay, so they've kind of cottoned on to Angel's mutant signature. They have to take Candy along because she refuses to be left behind. So in order to disguise her, they give her Marvel Girl's old costume while Marvel Girl remains in her student costume. That way her Candy's identity is protected. They get to this ship and they are immediately surrounded and attacked by these freakish kind of individuals. They start to fight their way through the horde, run down a tunnel, open a door, and they find someone who has been kind of tied or crucified to this these planks of wood. This little girl comes home, Ashley. She comes home from school and she finds Charles Xavier waiting there. They introduce each other to themselves, and then Beast is thrown through the house with the Sentinel straight on his heels, and the Sentinel kind of basically grabs him. Sentinels have this ability where once you use a mutant power against them, they can adapt to defend against that mutant power, which is really cool. And the Sentinel ends up grabbing Ashley and says, "Destroy all mutants." Thus, Ashley is in fact the mutant that Xavier and Hank McCoy came to find. Okay. Moving on to issue 11. All right. Fight to the death. Okay, so what we get is a little bit of backstory on the Sentinel creation. This happened 4 weeks ago. We have Larry Trask, who is, I guess, Bolivar Trask's son, kind of renewing his father's legacy of the Sentinel robots. And this gentleman basically telling the kids, stop being a fuckwit. The Sentinels kind of all get destroyed, but this one Sentinel pulls itself back together, and that's why there is this one Sentinel. We discover Ashley's mutant ability here in that she basically tells the Sentinel to stop, and it does. It's a very odd mutant power. She can basically control any non-living inorganic kind of material. So Psyche, Candy, and Jean Grey have discovered Aviana has been put up here with these spikes. They get her down and they try to escape the ship, and they are confronted with this gentleman. And he has, as he says, like the X-Men, my own band of freaks. And he is actually a mutant, and his ability, I believe, is to negate the powers of other mutants around him. Okay. Amphibious has basically spied this place where Lycos and Bobby Drake Iceman are, and he goes back and he tells Magneto, of course, Eric Lensher, his powers are not at full capacity at the moment. Beast tries to attack the Sentinel, but obviously is unsuccessful, and Ashley pretty much tells the Sentinel just to stop, just to kind of let it go. Okay, now Psyche confronts this character who has kidnapped them, and he thinks that Candy is Marvel Girl because she's wearing Marvel Girl's uniform, and he basically puts them all to sleep because he plans on selling them to this guy. Okay, who do we have here? Oh, so this character's name is Kruger, by the way. He's Kruger. And what Kruger does is he kidnaps and sells valuable mutants to this new Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Okay, let's break this down. This, you can probably guess, is Frank Dukes, otherwise known as the Blob. The Blob made his first appearance way back in X-Men 3 from 1964. I want to say January, but I'm probably wrong with the month there. I don't know when X-Men issue 1 came out. Here we have Mastermind. Mastermind actually appeared in X-Men number 4 in 1964 again. I'm not sure of the month. I'm going to say February, maybe March. I don't really know. Mastermind was just simply called Mastermind back then. His power is the power of illusion. But John Byrne, the writer of X-Men The Hidden Years, with Chris Claremont, was the one that actually gave him his name, which is Jason Wingard. And Jason Wingard as Mastermind is pivotal in the Dark Phoenix saga. This character, I don't think a lot of people would know. This is Unus. Unus was from X-Men number 8, again, 1964. And his ability is he is basically untouchable. He has this kind of force field around him that is impenetrable, so no one can actually touch him physically. And they are buying mutants for some reason, which will become clearer in the next few issues. Ashley's mother comes home, realizes there's a giant fucking robot in her front garden. We get an understanding of how the robot kind of got there. And Ashley, while trying to control the robot kind of starts to go apeshit and attack everyone, Beast and Charles and even Ashley. And Ashley gets angry at the robot for doing this because she thought the robot Sentinel was her friend. So she makes the Sentinel basically tear itself apart in anger, which it does. But that isn't the end of this story, because Ashley, now without her friend, realizes that none of this would have happened if Charles and Hank hadn't come here. And so her eyes glow red and she turns her anger upon them. Bobby Drake is trying to find Carl Lycos, finds him. Carl is like, leave me alone. Bobby's like, no, I can help you. Carl touches him, absorbs Bobby's energy, and then becomes Sauron. Okay, now we have double-sized issue 12. Starting with the classic Magneto helmet. Cannot go wrong with that thing, I tell you what. So we see he's now kind of reshaped his original armor, made a new helmet. We get the argument between Bobby and Carl that forced him to kind of flee. Havoc and Lorna are still off in search. They head to the island. At this point, Ashley is kind of flipping the fuck out at the professor. She controls his wheelchair and shoves him back into a tree, causing the wheelchair to burst, but Beast manages to save him just in time, and they are trying to calm her down. Candy is, they believe her to be Marvel Girl. She's pretending to be unconscious while this two-headed guy is carrying her. She smashes their heads together. Her whole thing is she's going to try and work out how to save Cyclops and Jean Grey. We have Eunice and Jason here getting ready to purchase these unconscious X-Men. Candy uses this hook to knock out Kruger, but the freaks kind of cotton onto her. She escapes, but ultimately ends up getting captured by Eunice and Mastermind. Kruger wants his money, so Jason, Mastermind, gives him the money, but knowing Mastermind, the money is an illusion that he's created to make Kruger think that it's actual money when it's not. We get a disgusting image of Blob in the bath while they're just sitting around watching him. That's fucking weird. I don't care what anyone says. And then we see that Blob has Angel, Candy, Jean Grey, and Cyclops in these boxes, these kind of cages. Magneto goes back to the kind of undercity that they were in and discovers that the whole thing is burnt and it's on fire and it's collapsing. This is where Bobby witnesses kind of Carl draining the life energy of a dinosaur. He kind of goes there, but Magneto kind of comes down and attacks. This is kind of happening at the same time as the end of last issue, but kind of not, but it is. It's kind of weird, but I like it. It's great. I mean, whatever. So Bobby kind of hides from Magneto, finds Carl hiding, and then Carl turns into Sauron, who I might add The art on him in this issue just looks fucking spectacular. I've always loved the look of this character. I think he looks great. He does have like other weird abilities like hypnotism and things like that. So Havoc and Polaris end up kind of finding Bobby's signature but crashing, while Sauron goes to confront Magneto, and we get Magneto kind of reliving that final fight. So we are then brought back to the Savage Land, where Iceman discovers Lorna and Havoc, and they see Sauron fighting Magneto. Bobby goes into kind of ice form to try and separate them. Of course, the fight just turns into one big smackdown that doesn't go well for anybody. And Havoc ultimately ends up kind of attacking Magneto and sending him plummeting down into kind of a giant rising lava pit. Sauron escapes, but Iceman is like, this is wrong, we can't leave him there, and he goes down to try and save Magneto. Sauron tries to hypnotize Havoc and Lorna, but is ultimately taken out by Iceman. He ends up fleeing. Iceman tells them he couldn't save Magneto at all, and they decide to head on back to the mansion, Bobby in his underpants. But we do see that Magneto has survived, and now we have Namor, the Submariner, who has felt this giant shockwave that Magneto caused, this magnetic pulse, and goes to investigate, sees these kind of pterodactyls fighting over an unconscious Magneto. He grabs them, yells Imperious Rex, kind of his catchphrase, and ends up deciding to save Magneto and take him back to Atlantis so he can get to the bottom of whatever the hell is going on. Okay, we find Jean Grey in a bedroom. Cyclops is standing over her, making some kind of lewd comments. She realizes it's an illusion and that it was Mastermind manipulating her with the Blob kind of wanting to have his way with her in this kind of sick ass. I mean, the Blob's a sick character anyway. They start to argue about their role in the original Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and Jean Grey kind of realizes this is why the villains never win, because they always fight amongst themselves. Ashley starts to, still pissed off, back in Dunphy, Illinois, starts to make the robot kind of put itself back together. They find the downed ship, the Sentinel, kind of the downed Sentinel ship, which they can kind of repair and get going back to the mansion. Here we see Angel, Psyche, and Candy, who they believe is Marvel Girl, in cages. Angel's trying to work out why the fuck Candy's here and what exactly is going on. And then we find out that they're going to be released into this kind of battle royale circus with all these psychotic animals and shit. Angel is trying to help Candy, and all of these like clowns with guns, and the Blob comes in, and there's like Unis, and they're all kind of fighting one another. And Cyclops realizes that this is all just illusion, that something else is kind of going on here, but they can't tell what is real and what is illusion and what isn't. Ashley, while recreating this Sentinel, Beast tries to kind of get it to stop. Charles realizes that she's too young to be able to control these powers responsibly. Her powers are pretty fucking significant. And so what he does is, his plan is to basically separate the mutant part of her brain from the rest of her brain, doing like a psychic lobotomy, so that when she hits puberty, her powers will manifest properly. They manifested at far too early an age, in his opinion. Just another example of Professor X being a complete pickle smoocher here. So he does it. The mother freaks out. Ashley falls unconscious. They're still fighting in the circus. Angel leaves Candy up on this ledge to kind of protect her, and goes down, and they just start beating the crap out of things, but they don't know what's real and what is not. At this point, Jean Grey telepathically unlocks the cell door, and as she's trying to escape, we see Kruger. Kruger has come here because he's discovered that all the money Blob has paid him has been nothing but an illusion. He wants revenge. They get back to the Lorna, Havoc, and Iceman get back to the mansion. They see the scorch marks on the floor, not realizing what it's from. It's from the Human Torch a few issues ago. So they're kind of freaking out now. And we get this kind of cutscene to Warren's mother and his uncle. And his uncle is planning on marrying his mother because Warren's father has actually died. Okay, a lot to process here, and this is one of the more how do I put this? This is a great story arc for Warren Worthington III, or Angel, but it has a very messed up ending. Okay, so the fight between, this is the three teams basically. So we see these three kind of going after the X-Men. We have Hank and Professor X with the unconscious Ashley. We have Angel and Cyclops and Candy fighting in this illusionary circus, and an unconscious Marvel girl. So we're at the circus, and they're basically trying to work out what is going on. Kruger is here, so he basically can negate powers. The cops come to clean up the Sentinel itself, and Professor X is basically making sure that none of them kind of do anything untoward, so to speak. Havoc, Lorna, and Iceman are trying to work out their next move. They decide to kind of search the mansion. At the circus, shit is going down. Kruger confronts the Blob. The Blob goes to attack him, but Kruger's power is negating power, so the Blob is no longer this kind of unstoppable force. He's just a fat guy. And of course, Unus's powers are negated, and that means that Wingard's powers are negated, and we can just see these Psycho Clowns are just regular henchmen. Kruger is going to kill Marvel Girl. Candy swings in on this kind of rope swing and knocks him unconscious. And all of Kruger's henchmen are like, hey, he's the only one that really gave a shit. And they're like, well, no, actually, you can go and live your lives. No one really fucking cares. Think of them as above ground Morlocks Who are the Morlocks? Go and watch X-Men, the animated series. Season 1, I believe it's episode 3 or 4. I think it's episode 4. Maybe. And you'll work out who the Morlocks are. The police come and kind of work all that crap out. Angel is reunited with the avian chick. Candy's like, should I be jealous? Angel's like, no, she saved my life. Calm the fuck down. They fly back to the mansion. And on the way, Candy tells Warren why she initially came to the mansion, to let him know that his uncle is about to marry his mother. This is a huge deal, but none of the X-Men know why. Only Candy and Angel know exactly why. They put the avian girl in kind of the mansion's hospital area, and they are all flying out to the Worthington estate to see what, if anything, they can do. And along the way there, Warren tells them that he discovered his uncle had actually killed his father. So his uncle killed his own brother. And his uncle is this supervillain known as the Dazzler. Not, of course, to be mistaken by the superhero Dazzler. But, yeah. When Warren realized it was his uncle, he revealed himself as Angel. His uncle decided to try and kill him and Candy. The uncle and Candy both fall off a building, and Warren decides to save Candy, thus believing his uncle to be dead, which is why this is such a shock that the uncle is planning to marry his mother. They all head down to the estate after landing their jets in the woods somewhere, and they're greeted by this doctor. He is the family doctor who actually delivered Warren when he was a baby and knows Warren intimately, and basically he knows that Warren's an X-Man and that they're all X-Men as well. So the doctor explains that after the father's death, his mother was in a really bad spot. He's been looking after her. Your uncle has been doing good, really kind of keeping your mother grounded and happy. So please don't mess this up. The uncle kind of shows up, shows his light powers to dazzle everyone. But then the mother comes in and is so happy to see her son. And her son is like, hey, how can you marry this guy? He's a fuckwit and he's got weird hair. And she's like, no, I love him, blah, 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 blah. And then the doctor again warns Warren, listen, don't say anything to her. If you do, it could very well kill her. Okay, so they fly. This is a little bit of kind of backstory as to why Havoc and Lorna aren't with them. Angel didn't want them coming. However, just beforehand, they did find another mutant signature in the Himalayas somewhere. So there is that. And they put the avian chick in the hospital, and then they all kind of head off to this wedding. Lorna, getting a little annoyed with Havoc going, why don't they leave me out of missions? I'm a baby, blah, blah, blah. Goes into town where she's met by this gentleman by the name of Tad Carter. Tad has been watching her. He kind of walks with her a bit. They talk. We go back to the Worthington estate where we see the doctor is trying to get Warren to reconcile a bit with his uncle just to please his mother. His uncle asks him to be the best man at the wedding. They're all kind of sitting around talking about this, not really kind of knowing what to do or what is going on. The uncle gives Warren's mother something to drink, possibly drugging her. And the doctor comes in and basically says, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And then we find out that the doctor is in on this nefarious plot. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing? If you give her too much of the drug, she's going to die before the wedding. You want her to die after the wedding." Lorna gets back, doesn't realize she's been gone for 9 hours. Havoc's a little pissed off about that. So he says to her, "Listen, the team doesn't want us at the Worthington estate working on that. I'm not sitting around on my ass. Let's get in the ship and go and check out this signature that we found in the Himalayas." And Lorna's like, "Yeah, that sounds like it could be fun." So it's at the wedding, and Warren's mother has kind of collapsed, and Beast realizes she's got some weird coloring around her lips, which is a sign of poisoning. At that point, the uncle kind of bursts in his Dazzler outfit, and he blinds everyone with his light. Cyclops, who jumped behind the sofa, blasts him with his optic beams, and then Angel goes, "You know what? I've had enough of this," and just starts beating the living shit out of his uncle, almost to the point of killing him before Cyclops and Beast pull him away. And we discover that he has given up the doctor. He says the doctor's in on this whole scheme. Jean Grey confronts the doctor, and the doctor reveals himself to be a mutant hater who should have killed Warren Worthington at birth when he discovered that his overly large shoulder blades were eventually going to turn into wings. It's too late for Warren's mother. Warren's mother sees him there. Warren's mother never knew that he was a mutant, never knew that he was Angel, but she's like, "Are you an angel?" And Warren's like, "Yes, I am," and decides to take her and fly her up to heaven. They realize basically that he's just flying her around until she dies. And that is one of the most poignant and depressing endings to an X-Men comic I have ever read. We're up to issue 16. We're going to leave it here for part 2. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. But most importantly, please, please, please stay safe. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And go and watch part 3 when it's uploaded, people.